Bob, if assurance is by faith in Jesus' promise apart from our works, then why did Paul say, examine yourselves as to whether you are in the faith? Test yourselves. Don't we need to test ourselves to have assurance?
The reason I laugh is because 2 Corinthians 13:5, which is the passage that's talked about here, is so often misused, taken out of context, and the opposite of what it means is brought out. In the first 4 verses, Paul is talking about the fact that there were people in the church of Corinth that were questioning whether what he said about the faith was accurate, whether he was really an apostle of Jesus Christ. They were examining him. They were testing him. So in verse 5, the first word is not examine. The first word is yourselves in Greek. Yourselves examine. Why does he say it that way? Because they've been examining Paul. And he's saying, look, stop questioning me. Question yourselves as to whether you're in the faith. Not born again, but whether they are in the faith in terms of their experience. Do they speak for Christ? Are they accurately representing the teachings of Scripture? And then he says that they are to test themselves to see whether Christ is in you. He doesn't mean whether Christ is positionally in them. He means in them in their experience. And then he goes on to say that I trust you know we are not disqualified. Actually, the Greek word is adokimos, disapproved. The interesting thing is examine and test is the verb dokimazo. And the noun form is dokimos. Like in Awana, if you're familiar with Awana Children's Ministries, that we're to be diligent or to study to show yourself an approved workman, that's dokimos. Well, in 2 Corinthians 5, verse 7, Paul says, I trust you know we are not adokimos. We are not disapproved. So the whole point of 2 Corinthians 13, 5 through 7 is they're to examine themselves to see if they're walking in the faith. Examine themselves to see if Christ is in their experience. Are they approved? Certainly Paul and his co-workers are approved. They're not disapproved. So the whole idea that we're supposed to examine ourselves to see if we're born again is not supported by that passage or any other passage. And by the way, just on a quick aside, if you look to your works for assurance, guaranteed you won't be assured, because all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. I've heard lots of people preach Romans 3:23 to unbelievers, and they act like it says, you have sinned and you fall short of the glory of God. But the verse says, all have sinned, past tense, and present tense, all fall short of the glory of God. So the speaker, me or whoever, currently falls short of the glory of God. We all do because we're all sinners. 1 John 1:8 says the same thing. 1 John 1:10. We never arrive in the Christian life. And so the idea that we can look at our works and say, wow, my works are so good, they prove I'm born again, it's absurd. And by the way, I'm a recovering perfectionist. In fact, I have a group I'm starting called PA, Perfectionists Anonymous. And hi, I'm Bob, I'm a perfectionist, right? And for perfectionistic people, this idea of looking at your works for assurance is horrendous, because perfectionists find fault in themselves over every little thing. And so the idea that someone could be married and find assurance in their works is ridiculous, because every time you had a disagreement with your spouse, you're going to be going, how could a true Christian get mad? How could a true Christian throw something? How could a Christian say something like that? How could a Christian, do that? How could a Christian, true Christian, treat their children like that? Is there any parent that's perfect? Any spouse that's perfect? How about driving? I mean, wouldn't everybody question their assurance just based on their own driving record? I mean, who drives perfectly and never gets upset when people flip them off or cut them off or whatever? I mean, it seems to me if God doesn't save us by His grace, then He doesn't save us at all.